coincidence that all three of you are in transportation, because it looks like the only faculty member who's going to show up today is transportation. We have a systems faculty member who was waylaid and won't join us. But here's what I would like to do, if this works for you. I'd like to talk for I've got a few slides I want to show you, just to kind of start the conversation. Some of the things I say you might be aware of already, some you might not be. But my intent here is just to get the conversation started. After that, Jessica and I would be happy to try to answer any questions or thoughts you might have. Anything we can do to kind of talk about the program and, encourage you to come. All right. Does that sound like a plan that'll work for you guys?
Sounds good.
All right. So I'm going to ask for the right to share my screen. How about that? Can you see what I'm?
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay, good. So let me start by just talking a little bit about the kind of courses you'll take in the transportation MEng program. The coursework is not radically different between transportation and systems, but there are some distinctions, and I'll try to make those clear. I'll also try to make clear that what is important, what is unique about our MEng program is that it combines both the kind of entrepreneurial curriculum that you'd want to get from an MBA type program, along with the technical knowledge of transportation or systems, as the case may be, which for reasons we'll discuss is really very important. It's the blending of the two that is really quite essential. I'll give an example of some capstone projects that have been run here in recent years. It kind of illustrates the sorts of things you will likely be working on should you decide to join us in the fall. And then we'll just say a few things about scheduling. And after that, maybe we can take a little Q&A. Jessica and I would both be happy to try to answer any questions you have. So the first thing I want to note is, and you probably know this already, it's 25 units for the MEng. That is, by the way, 1 unit more than we ask for the Master of Science program. But that's not the real distinction between the MEng and the MS. The real distinction is roughly half your courses are of the Masters of Business Administration type courses. And most of those courses are 1 unit seminar type courses. So if you join us, you'll take Engineering 270. As you can see from the little flyer here, the little PowerPoint here, that's a 1 unit course on business and management, which talks about the management and ethics regarding technology enterprises. We've also got an organizational class, a class on organizational behavior suited specifically for technology and engineering-driven kind of thing. Now those come to just 2 units. In addition to that, you'll take 4 other 1 unit courses, and there you'll choose from a menu of 11 courses you can choose from. And these 11 courses from the menu span a lot of different things related to entrepreneurship. So there's courses that are dedicated primarily, for example, to developing business models. There's courses that cover finance. There's courses that cover managing and motivating staff. There's marketing questions. And most of these courses cover to some degree various aspects of business law. The other important thing with regard to the uniqueness of the MEng program is you'll take several units each semester working on it as a team on a capstone project. And we'll say a few more words about the capstone project in a couple of minutes. The thing I want to mention right now is, as I said before, what's most important about our program is that in addition to these entrepreneurial business-driven courses that you'll take, the other half of your units roughly will come from the civil engineering department. And in the case of you 3, that would be in the transportation program. So if you decided to join us in the fall, you would take 2 of the courses that fall that we consider core courses. One of them we call CE 251. That's called Transportation Operations. And what that course really covers is the physics of how transportation systems work. You know, transportation networks are different from most other networks, like computer networks and social networks or spy networks or so forth, is because these transportation networks carry things that are real. They carry people, they carry materials, and so forth, goods and services. So there's a lot of physicality involved in it, and sometimes using one's intuition about how the physics of these systems work can lead people in the wrong direction. A lot of times the physics associated with the operation of transportation systems is really quite counterintuitive. And so 251 is aimed at familiarizing you with these sometimes complex ideas. 252 is the other core course you will take in the fall if you join it. And that's a course that involves various methods, technical, analytical methods that are commonly used to solve transportation problems. So we're talking about mathematical programming, for example. We're talking about statistics and econometrics. We're talking about various tools for network analysis, queuing, and so forth. There's a lot of overlap between the two core courses, but they're distinct in the sense that one is concerned with the physics, the other more with the method. Now, I really cannot stress enough the importance of the fact that you get the blending of both business and technical. Because with just a business background alone, you can learn a lot of nice ideas for engaging in a transportation enterprise. But unless you really understand what's going on, the details of how transportation systems operate and how to analyze those operations, one can do a lot of harm. So on a negative example, they say that the Boeing aircraft company, which is kind of in a lot of trouble these days because of some catastrophes they suffered with regard to safety, the common knowledge is that Boeing started getting into trouble when decision-making went away from the engineers and went to the MBAs. So this curriculum, which blends both, is really devised so as to prevent that kind of problem. You have MBA-like training, and you have technical training, okay? In addition to the technical training you would get in the core courses in the fall semester, in the spring semester, you will take 2 more courses in transportation engineering. And here you have a menu of courses to choose from. Some of the courses we offer are specifically targeted to certain travel modes. So for example, we have a course in highway traffic operations. We have a course in public mass transit. We have a course in air transportation. But we have other courses that are not targeted to modes, but to various analysis. So we have behavioral modeling. How do you predict the demand for a system, whatever that system might be, whether it's a highway or a transit system or what have you? There's other courses about network analysis methods. There's other courses about how to build the markets for new transportation systems. And from this menu of about 7 or 8 courses we offer every spring semester, you'll choose 2 of them. Okay. What else can I say? Well, this little paragraph towards the bottom of my slide talks about what the MEng program in transportation is all about. It really focuses on intelligent transportation systems because nascent technology keeps becoming more and more ubiquitous. We see it more and more in our lives. And the question is, how can we harness this technology to advance transportation systems to serve society? But how can we do it in a sensible, safe, effective way? You need both. To do that really effectively, you need both the business skills and the technical skills. As I say, that's what we seek to instill through this curriculum. Now, let me say just a few words about an important aspect of the MEng program, and that is the capstone project. And what I thought I would do is just spend 2 or 3 minutes going over an example large-scale project that's run for several years, and it kind of illustrates the sorts of things you might get involved with if you decide to join our program. So this particular example that I want to give you of a capstone project has to do with reserving curb space in downtown areas for trucks to unload and mostly unload merchandise, unload whatever it is they're delivering. Now that may sound kind of mundane, but it is an extremely challenging and an extremely important problem in dense urban areas in major cities in the US and elsewhere in the world, trucks have a great deal of trouble when they arrive to unload their material. They often have a great deal of trouble finding curb space to pull over and do that. So consequently, we see a lot of wasted space where trucks are circulating around trying to find a parking spot, and maybe they ultimately decide to double park and to block roadways, which causes all kinds of traffic problems. It's such a serious problem that big delivery companies like UPS, United Parcel Service, and FedEx pay millions of dollars each year in parking fines in New York City alone. So you multiply that by all the cities across the country and across the world, and it's a big problem. And yeah, the cities probably enjoy the revenue they get from those citations, but there's a lot of negative externalities in addition to not being able to deliver goods in a timely fashion. There's the externalities that come from disturbing traffic by double parking, creating more congestion, more energy, and energy consumption, and engine emissions, and so forth. So really, we can legitimize this thing as an important problem. It's a tricky problem because it has a lot of moving parts. Yeah, and it's one that would really serve society as well as shipping companies. Anyway, to break down what this multi-part capstone project was about, first of all, it was building the technology so that the system could always monitor a truck's location at any one time and make projections as to when that truck would arrive at its next delivery location. It would then display in some user-friendly way, in some ergonomically safe fashion. It would give the truck driver some options as to what curb space might be available for his use or her use, and give the truck driver an opportunity to reserve that space. And then, of course, there's all kinds of other issues that had to be addressed with regard to enforcement. Other truck drivers couldn't use that space in the time reserved for the current truck, for the target truck. And there was going to be additional some navigation assistance to help guide the truck driver into the reserved spot. Anyway, that's kind of what was going on in a nutshell. That's kind of an example of the sorts of things that our students work on. But there's all sorts of projects in transportation. And this was just one example. The last thing I really want to talk about is just kind of the overall schedule. Most of our students, understandably, are very interested in what sort of capstone design project they're going to work on. And so in July, you would become familiar with the menu of projects that are available that you can choose from, and you kind of choose from those projects in August. In September, there's a kind of a matching then. Students in August specify their preferences for projects. And in September, there's a kind of a matching system where faculty and students are matched on a single project. Typically, a project will have one or two faculty, maybe someone from industry, and usually more than one student working on the project, although sometimes the smaller scale projects have just a single student. Anyway, in the fall semester, you work on that project with your team, continue to work on it in the spring. And by May, you wrap it up with a project report. So that's sort of what I wanted to talk about, and I hope it maybe serves to get the conversation started. Let's see, how do I get back? I think at this point, Jessica and I would be very happy to try to answer any questions you might have. How do I stop sharing? There it is. There. Okay. So, Charles, Al, and Priscilla, are there any questions or thoughts you wanted to share with us with regard to the program?
Yeah,
Yeah, Charles, go ahead.
I was curious, what's the distribution of projects being, I guess, more research focused with a professor, or maybe a project that's sponsored by industry or a company?
Oh, well, each project ideally has a professor and an industry person. So it's a combination of both. To be sure, this is a professional master's program. So the MEng students are not advancing or developing new theory. But what they are doing in many cases is using the best theoretical work that's available and applying it for a very practical problem to come up with some useful solution that would serve society. So there is an element of theory there, but the theory doesn't mean impractical. Theory could
Okay.
just mean you're coming up with a practical solution that should be especially effective. If you
Yeah.
look at the theory.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Priscilla, did you have any questions or things you wanted to ask?
I think my question would be a bit different.
That's great.
No, I don't know if Tallinn has a question. Let me ask his first.
Okay, Talia,
If he has.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead. I can wait.
Priscilla, you go ahead. I think the sequence of which order the
Okay.
questions are asked really doesn't matter very much.
Okay, so when I saw it was an info session, I think I misunderstood what info was because I attended the session, I think last week, but I joined it late and it was mostly for MS students, and them they were like asking about opportunities for them to be graduate or a student or research people, and they kind of say that for MEng that possibility is low. So yeah, let me just ask, is it impossible or like there are slight chances if you want to be like a graduate research assistant or reader, things like that? That's the direction my question would
There's
be.
possibilities for being a graduate student instructor or a reader to grade homeworks, tests, things like that. It's possible. I'm not going to tell you that they're abundant. The vast majority of the Masters of Science and the MEng students don't have that sort of funding, but some do. Some do. A small percentage. Does that help?
Yes, it does help. Thank you.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, how many people are usually in a batch a year? I'm just curious because I think the CEE teams for capstone need 5 people.
No, the teams, it varies, the team size.
Oh.
But as far as your cohort, that's a really good question. First of all, to a large extent, you'll be mixed in with other cohorts. When you take your business classes, you'll be with other MEng in other departments, whether it's electrical engineering or material science or IEOR. You'll take courses with them. And when you take transportation courses, you'll be taking courses with the MS and PhD students as well. You'll all be mixed together. In our department in transportation engineering, we don't have just MEng transportation courses. We have graduate courses. So in any given course, a core course might have 30 or 40 students. Some of the more advanced classes may have 20 students. Insofar as what we're anticipating for incoming class, typically like this past year, we're still almost 2 weeks or a little less than 2 weeks from the deadline. So I don't have the numbers as to how many MS and MN students we're likely to have this year. What I can tell you is last year and in most previous years, the combination of MS and MEng combined in transportation comes to something in the low to mid 40s. Now, those numbers might be a little less this year. For whatever reason, applications were down. So maybe we're looking at more like 35 graduate students in transportation. Maybe a third of those being an MEng and 2/3 of those roughly being MS. But I think these are the kinds of numbers we're looking at. So it's a good sized community. It's not excessively large. You don't get lost in the shuffle. I think you'll find that it's a very collaborative. Here at Berkeley, we try to emphasize excellence, and we try to project excellence in the courses we teach and in the research and the capstone design projects we as faculty are involved in, and we expect that sort of excellence from the students. But it's all done in a rather collaborative and friendly way. This is not a terribly overly competitive backstabbing kind of program. I think you'll find if you join us that your fellow students were all very amiable and supportive. We sort of kind of work in a supportive way, assuming, we're all in this together. Our job is to learn material and to try to advance it and try to apply it in the best way possible. And we've discovered that doing that collaboratively tends to be more productive than sort of a divide and conquer strategy where everybody's trying in it for themselves and trying to rise to the top. So that is my honest appraisal. I've been here more than 30 years teaching, and this is what's sort of a constant from one year to the next.
Appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Yeah. What else would we like? What else could we possibly talk about that might be helpful at this stage? We'd very much like to hear from you.
How are the capstone projects distributed between majors? So would a transportation project be all transportation, or maybe one
No.
computer science person? Yeah.
Computer science tends to stick with themselves. That's the exception.
Mhm.
Otherwise, there's a great deal of blending. So the project I gave as an example had students from over the years, and it was a multi-part project that took place over several years, but they had students from across the engineering college from various departments. Mechanical,
Okay. Yeah.
UR, transportation, civil systems, things like that.
Hmm.
So no, generally it's unlikely if you're on a project, especially one with a large team of 4 or 5 students, say, as one example, it's very unlikely that they'd all be transportation. Of course, it all depends on the nature of the project, but these things tend to be more often than not quite interdisciplinary.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think interdisciplinary is a magic word in this program. I mean, honestly.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just again, in the transportation, we want you to apply that interdisciplinary knowledge with very strong domain knowledge. That's where you can really do the most good for society and sort of flourish in your own professional career.
Yeah. I was also curious, what's the conclusion look like for it? Is there a poster session
Yes.
or final
Yeah.
report?
Yeah, you have a final report and you present it.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
One more question from me, I guess. So I mentioned that I'm planning at least to pursue it part-time. So I can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I was planning on pursuing it part-time. I'm just kind of curious, the degree of like recordings being available, because I guess flexibility is kind of important for me.
You have a question that's kind of stumped me. I think maybe Jessica can help. Is a part-time pursuit of the MEng possible?
It's possible, but the recording part, I'm not sure. It depends on each instructor, I think, for each class.
Yeah.
Fair.
It isn't. I have to be honest with you. The curriculum is not really targeted for that. So, I mean, there's 2 different issues here I think you're hitting at. There's pursuing things part-time, which means you don't take a full load every semester. That's one thing. But the other thing is, most of the courses are not about remote learning. They're in class.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah,
So-
no, I was asking more in terms of accessibility side of stuff, less not coming to class type of stuff.
Yeah. Again, every course is a little different. It's based on the course and how the instructor likes to teach it. But I don't honestly think, well, it's really set up for remote instruction. The program is really not. I know, and I can speak for myself. If you were to join us, at some point you would have to take the course I teach, the core course 251 on transportation operations. And I don't videotape that. I'm a strong believer in everybody coming to class and working together to learn the material. And I think being there is half the battle. So, yeah, I'm speaking for myself. You got to be there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else while we're here? We're all here together. Priscilla?
Mike,
Oh,
what courses do you teach? You mentioned mass transit and highway
right. So
operations.
right now I'm teaching the course on public transit, which is it's an advanced course. It uses a great deal of mathematics and optimization to figure out how you'd want to plan a transit system in terms of its route structure, its stop locations, and so forth, whether it's buses or metro rail. What we do is we come up with we treat design variables that are discrete, like the number of stops on a bus route or the number of routes in a city. We treat those as continuous, a real value random variable, which is a reasonable approximation as long as you're dealing with numbers that are greater than 1. And the advantage of that is we can come up with relatively simple, it's still very complicated, but relatively simple cost functions that we can optimize by hand. We can optimize using first principles, using calculus. And there are approximations, and then what we do is we take the approximate route structure that we're in, details of the route that we've designed, and we conform it to the actual city. So right now the students are working on a mini project that they're reworking the rail lines and the bus lines for the city of Chicago. So they come up with an optimal strategy that would work if routes could go anywhere and everywhere. And then they take their optimal design and they conform it to the constraints of the actual city. So that's a big part of what the course is. I teach a course right now also in highway traffic, where I'm kind of interested in how do you apply the best theories to make the systems work better, to fight congestion, be safe, and so forth. And then I also teach at the graduate level. I teach the core course at top that I will teach next fall on transportation physics, called Transportation Operations 251. So those are the graduate courses that I taught this year.
Cool. I was curious for the public transit one, what kind of software is used? Is that like Excel solver or Python?
We emphasize solving by hand, but again, when we start applying them to places like Chicago, and we have something in San Francisco and the Bay Area and so forth, then we usually take our approximations and we refine them through solvers. And you can use an Excel solver, or you can code your own in Python, whatever you want to do. That's fine. But
Cool.
we do, in the end, with these mini projects, which are very practical, they involve solvers.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to ask about the capstone project. Since you said it's already existing, we are not doing anything new. My question is, do we do a continuation from what the previous cohort did, or it's like just an existing?
No. Sometimes the courses, oftentimes the capstone project is brand new. It's a one-year project, and you go from start to finish. Other times, yeah, there's a multi-year project where the previous cohort has gone to a finishing point. I mean, at least a sort of a benchmark place where then there's the next phase of the project can go. But it's all the projects are designed to be good learning experiences, whether the projects are just starting or they're in their second year. But I think most of the projects are just one-year projects that are rather self-contained. So there's a starting point and there's a finishing point.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, they're designed to have high quality give you a good educational experience. So it's not just like, oh, well, last year somebody was writing this code, so why don't you finish up this code? No, it's not like that. And it's the projects are rather holistic. I mean, you start from the beginning where you look at this rather complicated problem and you figure out how to make it tractable by coming up with a suitable scope, suitable constraints, things like that, and then working it from there to some finished product.
I was curious, there's the visit day in person tomorrow. Is there any civil specific sessions for that? Or will any of you be in attendance?
I'm planning on swinging by, yeah, but I
Okay.
don't have a particular role to play.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you right now, San Luis?
Yeah. So I'm considering driving up in the morning. Yeah.
I don't know enough about, I certainly encourage you. That's a long drive,
It is, yeah.
So I don't know. Jessica, you have any thoughts on this, or whether how heavily we should push Charlie to do this?
I encourage you to join for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just for you to meet with your cohort. Not necessarily with all the CEE students, because majority of them are international students. I don't think they're coming. However, you will be able to meet with other, MEng students.
Yeah,
you'll be working with them
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. You'll meet the cohort of admitted students across the college.
Yeah.
Across the Fung Institute,
Mm-hmm.
including those that are in civil, others in civil. I assume there'll be some there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a long drive, Charlie. If it turns out to be a disappointment, don't blame me.
Uh-huh. Will do.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not a disappointment. I mean, there's a lot of staff working at Fung, and they do a pretty good job of putting on a pretty good show, if you will, and trying to be informative.
Yeah.
So listen, in these last couple of weeks, or whatever it is, 10 days, 12 days, as you're making up your mind, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm at cassidy@ce.berkeley.edu. I'm easy to get. Send me an email. We can exchange emails if there's anything you want to discuss or ask. We can exchange emails, or we can have Zoom meetings or phone calls or whatever. But we very much hope you decide to join us. And as I say, if there's anything you'd like to discuss in helping you make up your mind between now and the deadline, which I think is what, April 14th?
Yeah, April 15th.
April 15th.
15th.
Well, let us know. Anything else?
One
I
last
think
thing.
I'm good.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm curious whether syllabi for like the past semesters are kind of available. I just wanted to kind of look at the courses, see what's being taught in them, or where I can access them.
Jessica, I mean, I could give you the syllabus for 251. I could send that to you.
That'd be great. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I'll send you this year's syllabus, of course. I'll send you anything. I send you syllabi of the other courses I've taught this year too. But those are not the MBA type courses, of course. Those are the
Yeah, we
syllabi.
don't have those syllabi. You can reach out to the Fung Institute advisors and see if they have those.
That's totally fine. Yeah, I'm more interested in I think the technical courses myself.
Okay. Well, let me send you my syllabi.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right.
I think I'd also be interested in the syllabus, in your
All right.
syllabus.
So let me
Okay.
make sure I write these down so I don't forget. Let me get your.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll send those sometime today. I've got to run off to another meeting after this and teaching, but before the end of today, I will send those to both of you. I'll send you my 3 syllabi for the year.
I would also appreciate it. I put
Well,
my
all right.
email
Charlie,
in
you
the
don't want to be
chat.
left out? Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Everybody, you get a syllabi, you get a syllabi,
Yep.
you get a syllabi. Okay, everybody gets a syllabi. All right, good. I think we've kind of run its course for now, anyway. But I hope to see you in the fall, and if you want to talk anytime before that, please don't hesitate. All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you for
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mike.
You take care, everybody.
Okay.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.